Welcome to the T-Pac Arcade. Today's game is Exes for the Nintendo Famicom. In this 1985 shoot-'em-up from Capcom and Takuma Shoten, evil insect aliens called the Exes are attacking Negnin, and it's up to you and your spacecraft to save the planet. A typical space shooter plot for a typical space shooter game, because Exes is very much your standard mid-80s shoot-'em-up. You fly through round after round of enemy swarms, ground turrets, and boss formations in pursuit of high scores and glorious 8-bit sci-fi destruction. Your ship has a standard dual cannon, which can be upgraded to a double or triple spiral beam with POW pickups, or downgraded back to the standard cannon with backwards POW pickups, or should I say WOP pickups, as in WOP WOP. But fear not, all other items are safe to collect, namely the fruit bonuses, mostly strawberries, but occasionally pineapples. My personal preference, both for taste and point value. And what's a space shooter without explosives? Exes has stars for bomb pickups, but rather than clearing the entire screen like typical smart bombs, these only clear the bullets and missiles. Enemy insects are just gonna keep flying at you, like those particularly bold mosquitoes who seem completely undeterred by bug spray. Among these insects, we've got bees that swarm inward to trap you in either their bullet sprays or their nasty buggy selves, or both. We've got moths that enter from the bottom of the screen, in line with this game's tendency to punish the player for hanging back in what would normally be a safe zone. We've got red beetles that pause to reorient themselves, then fly straight at you, and pinwheels that do the same thing, while stray trails of flies make their way down the screen. There are also big green bugs of various sorts, all weaving around the playfield in unique patterns and dropping missiles that, thankfully, are destructible. And of course, a few flavors of ground turrets which shoot at you and may or may not be hiding some sweet, sweet bonus strawberries. These obviously aren't bugs, but to be fair, neither are my two favorite enemies in the game. The circling skull formations that really let you rack up the points when you destroy them in succession, and the flashing plus orb that'll disappear then reappear somewhere else if you don't take it out fast enough. A trait that's mirrored to some degree in the boss encounters, which are all configurations of skulls that take a lot of hits and shoot at you, black hole things that take even more hits and shoot at you, and pulsing lights that still take a lot of hits but don't shoot at you. Like the plus orbs, the boss will escape if you don't defeat it fast enough, but instead of reappearing elsewhere, the formation will just sink down off screen and leave you feeling supremely unsatisfied as you move on to the next round. It's like some kind of pity progression, and it hurts my soul. Particularly with the quote-unquote final boss of level 16 right before the game loops. It's a configuration of 13 black holes that, no matter how hard I tried, I could never destroy in time. So even though I can say I played through the content of this game by making it to the loop point, it's hard to claim I beat it when the Exes boss is still out there, tormenting my planet and my psyche. And I can't even say I overcame any challenge to loop the game either, since you immediately respawn when you die, as if nothing even happened, and pressing A and B when you run out of lives lets you continue that way infinitely. I've never quite credit-fed a video game so blatantly, but I wouldn't necessarily call that a bad thing. Progression systems like this are good for mindless, consequence-free space shooter fun. In my opinion, everyday life can be punishing enough, and video games don't have to follow suit. However, I did read that the original arcade version of Exes has a definitive ending if you roll the score at 10 million points. So in my irrational need for closure, I spent a cumulative 10 plus hours save stating and button mashing to find out if that was true for the Famicom port. And now I can conclusively say, it's not. So I've wasted 10 plus hours of my life, and my wrist hurts real bad. The most novel aspect of Exes is the high point areas, which show up every few rounds. Here, enemies don't shoot at you, and skulls descend down the screen. You can boost your score by blowing them up, and by activating POW icons to turn them all into strawberries. Yum. Aesthetically, Exes is a collection of a few inspired bits, drowned out by an overwhelmingly bland, and sometimes questionable, presentation. The backgrounds are the biggest offender in the ho-hum category, as an endless scroll of dirt, moss, and concrete honeycomb patterns. I do like the texturing here, but it reminds me of a lawn renovation project that someone just gave up on halfway through. The sprites are a bit better, with some welcome variation across the spectrum of green bugs in particular, plus the fun fruit bonuses. I especially like the giant fruit that sometimes shows up in high point areas. See, everybody's always ranting about GMOs, but I'll happily take a strawberry the size of a dishwasher. The audio in Exes is where the aforementioned, questionable presentation enters the conversation. You get a few different music tracks for standard stage sections, boss battles, and high point areas, but they aren't much more than incredibly brief, endlessly looping, underwhelming chiptune scales, only broken by your pew 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 blaster, occasional noise channel crashes from the green bug's missiles, and an annoying alarm tone when your ship respawns. The worst offense, though, is when the boss victory track and the following stage track overlap in a discordant mess of 8-bit ear trauma. Ooh, that was painful. The suspended game audio can also be painful, since it just repeats whatever sound was playing when you paused, but most of the time, it just sounds like an elevator chime. My favorite part of this game is the turn-your-brain-off design philosophy, with the consequence-free continue system, the endless round progression, and the paint-by-numbers enemy waves. I only wish the timed element to the boss fights wasn't a thing. My sense of accomplishment may not be dictated by a lack of challenge, but it's certainly dictated by whether or not I actually managed to stop the bad guys instead of letting them scroll off screen. Overall, Exes is a stock standard mid-80s space shooter that lets you approach it by your own standards for challenge and accomplishment. So even though I don't like bugs and the specter of the undefeated final boss will haunt my psyche forever, I still respect this game as some good, mindless, space blasting fun.